and welcome for this live stream. Today we are going to build a super cool app that I will call the Blockchain Universal app. This is a single application that you can use to interface with any smart contract on the blockchain. Yes, this is possible, and I will show you how to do this. If you are new here, I'm Julian, and at Eat the Blocks, I teach you blockchain development. Say hi in the chat if you're already here. Alright, so very quickly before we getting started for this tutorial, quick advertisement for our Solidity Bootcamp. So in 1 month, we are going to turn you into a Solidity Pro ready to get your first freelance gig. The Bootcamp just started, but we still have one seat left. So if you want to enroll, you can still catch up. You just have you're just missing 2 lessons. So yeah, the link is in the chat, eattheblocks.com bootcamp. All right, guys, so let me show you what are we going to build today. How does it going to look like? So it's this thing here. All right, so here basically we are going to, step 1, we're going to upload the detail of our smart contract, then the address. And step 2, we will be able to interact with our smart contract. So for each function of the smart contract, we're gonna have a UI that magically will appear, and you can really work with any smart contract. That's the crazy part. And so here, for example, you can get execute the balance of an address for a token. You can get the decimal number, the name here. So we're interacting with a DAI, get the symbol, get the total supply, etc. So yeah, that is a really nice project to learn. I mean, you're going to learn a lot. This is not the kind of application where you will find a lot of tutorial on how to build this, and for your portfolio also, this is a non-trivial app. So if you want to stand out, for employers, this is also a great way to find your first blockchain job. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so before we get started, I want to show you a schema, okay, that I've done. So how are we going to do this? Okay, so if you want to interact with a smart contract, you need 2 things. Okay, so you need an address. So the address of the smart contract, it's basically the identifier for the smart contract. And you also need the ABI. So that's a JSON document that explains what the details, explain the interface of the smart contract. So in JSON format, it explains how to interact with this contract. And we need these 2 things, the address and the ABI, to be able to interact with the smart contract in our dApp. And so basically the data flow is from our dApp to a blockchain API. So basically we don't run the Ethereum software, the blockchain software ourselves, but usually we go through some public and free blockchain API like Infura or QuickNote, and they will run the Ethereum software for us. And after, they will relay our transaction or our call to a smart contract on the blockchain. Okay, but we only need to take care here of the dApp part. And so also another thing that you need to know about ABI is that because basically it described all the different functions of a smart contract, we can iterate through this ABI and dynamically create a form. Okay, so that's the secret. That's why we're able to do this dynamically. Okay, and so if you want to see in action a production app that does this, so an example of that is Etherscan. So that's a blockchain explorer. This allows you to visualize see what is inside the blockchain. So you can see transactions, you can see a smart contract. So here, this is the smart contract of the DAI stable coin. So that's a token that is always equal to $1. That is very used on the Ethereum blockchain. And you can see all the transaction here, like going through it, but you can also see details about the smart contract itself. So smart contract, this is the code where basically that manage the token. And so here this is written with the programming language called Solidity. So we're not gonna go through this code because we actually don't need it. But what's interesting is that we can interact here with this smart contract. So here you can click on decimals, balance off, etc. So this is a similar interface that we had on our app. And so they were able to do this thanks to this ABI that I mentioned. And we actually can see this ABI here. So contract ABI. And so this is an array with different, basically, with a different JSON, with different object inside that describe both the function and the different elements of our smart contract. So I'm going to show you here. Let me see. Let me see here. We have an ABI here, but better formatted. Okay, so here, for example, you can see the constructor. So that's a special function. Here you can see an error, different element of the smart contract. So we don't need everything. Okay, let's go down. Let's go down event here. We don't care about the event. And from here, it starts to be interesting. So here we see a function. So a function is how you interact with a smart contract. Some of them are view function, meaning that they are read-only, and some of them are not view function. So those are transaction function. When you execute them, you will change the data of the blockchain, and it actually costs money. So this one is a read-only function. And in input, so basically here there are two arguments. You can see the type of the argument, the name of the argument, and you can also see what we got in output. So here we get a single value as output. And so if you scroll down, you will see the different function. So some of them don't require input, like this one. This is an empty array. And so we're going to use this to dynamically build our UI. So it's going to be really, really cool project. Okay, so I see a couple of people in the chat. Monkey Mike, Christopher, awesome. So I will start the coding. So I've already prepared a basic Next.js project. So yeah, let's go briefly over the different technology that we are going to use for this project. So we are going to start with Ethereum because, Ethereum, this is the dominant technology in blockchain. So we're going to focus on smart contracts on the Ethereum blockchain. But we'll also be able to reuse our app for any EVM compatible blockchain. So which means basically a lot of blockchains. So if you think of blockchain like Arbitrum, for example, Base is also EVM compatible. There are really a lot. Then we are going to use a library called Ethers to interact with the smart contract. This is a JavaScript library. Our app is going to be a front-end app, so we're going to use JavaScript, and we're also going to use the Next.js framework because that's very, very convenient to quickly build dynamic front-end application. And for CSS, we're going to use Bootstrap to make it nice. We're also going to use HTML, of course. And so, yeah, so that's it for the different technology we are going to use. So I've already created a basic React project. And so basically, let me show you what I've installed. So I've installed Bootstrap for the styling, Bootstrap icons. We need a couple of icons, and then Ethers, so the library to interact with the blockchain. And so basically, if you want to create a Next.js project, you need to have Node.js and npm install, and then you type npx create next app, and then name of your app. Then you press enter, and it's going to ask you a couple of questions. And to install the dependency that I mentioned, just do npm install bootstrap and bootstrap icons and ethers, and this will install everything. All right, so let's go over. We are going to start our app to see the skeleton that we have, okay? Because we already have something here. So npm run dev, that's how you start your app with Next.js. All right, so here, I need to reinstall everything. Npm install, okay, so let's reinstall everything and let's rerun npm run dev. Now it's going to work. Okay, localhost /3000. So let's see this. Localhost 3000. All right, and here we have a very basic front end that I've prepared. So universal blockchain app, a front end interface for any smart contract. So let's start the coding. So here our home page is going to be in src/app/page.js. So that's the convention with Next.js app. Here we have our basic header, and we are going to first, we need a connect button. Okay, so before we do everything, I want to make sure that the user is connected to MetaMask. Okay, so if you've never heard of MetaMask, this is MetaMask. So that's the most popular wallet for Ethereum applications. That's basically a browser wallet. So this will work as an extension of your browser. So it works with Chrome, but also with the biggest web browser out there, and so you can install it by visiting the Google Chrome store. This is free, and after you're going to see this little fox here, and so when you click on it, you'll be able to access your different addresses, and you'll see how much money you have with them. But what's important is that we need this thing in order to interact with the blockchain, because it basically serves two functions. So when you want to just read from the blockchain, we're going to go through MetaMask, which itself is connected to the blockchain. It has its own blockchain API. And when you want to send transaction, this also is able to sign transaction by using the private key that is inside MetaMask. So that's basically like a password. So this allows you to do two things: read the blockchain and also write the blockchain. Okay, so I've already installed this, and next let's go back to the code. And so let's start our component for the connect button. So let's start. I'm gonna here create a folder components, and let's create a component connect.js. So it's a good practice to isolate your code in a different component, because it's easier to read your code like this. So this is going to be a client-side component. So in Next.js, we have to use this, put this annotation, use client, all right? Then let's export the components, export default function connect. All right. And what are we going to return? So here, let's do a div to enclose everything, and we're gonna have a button. Okay, so and in this button, so let's put some class from Bootstrap. By the way, so I don't know all of this by heart, but you can find all of this on the documentation of Bootstrap. So this is just some CSS class to make the button nicer. This is a class to make some space above it. And when we click on this, we are going to trigger a connect function that we will define just above. Let's do this. So this is going to be asynchronous because we're going to do some synchronous operation inside. Okay. Then what we're going to do, so let's close our button here. We're going to display connect button here. And what's going to happen when we try to connect? So first of all, let's make sure that we have access to window.ethereum. So MetaMask, when it's loaded in the web browser, it's going to inject an object called window.ethereum. So if you are unable to read it, it means that the user hasn't installed MetaMask. So we need to display an error message here. So how are we going to do this? Set error. We're going to define this function. You need to install MetaMask before using this app, right? And we're going to stop here because after we're going to have some more code here, but we don't want to execute this. So now let's define this set error function. So we're going to define some state. So error, set error. This is how you define some state in React or Next.js. That's the same thing. The initial state is undefined. Okay. So here the first error, that's the value of the state, and set error, that is a function to modify this value. And now we need to import use state from React. All right. What else we need? So yeah, and next we need to display the error message. So here let's do this. So if we have an error, basically let's put an alert danger. So some Bootstrap stuff here. Let's put some space above and below. Let me see. Okay, I think I put this. So here we're basically saying we don't want any space below because by default we're gonna have some space below. So just some CSS adjustment. And after that, we are going to put an icon. Okay, so I'm going to show you here how I find this icon. So Bootstrap icon. So that's a library to have an icon. And here I search something related to danger or warning. Okay, and I think, let me see. I think we chose... think we chose this one. Okay, so you click on it and then you'll have instruction on how to use it. So here you just copy this HTML element, and we're going to have this just after. Here let's display the error, and after let's close the div. Let me see. Yes, I think that's correct. Okay, so now we are displaying the error. So next we need to connect MetaMask to our app. So I'm going to show you how to do this. So first of all, we need to import Ether, the library to connect to the blockchain. Ethers from Ethers. All right. After that, let's do new ethers.browser provider. So here, careful, we are using Ethers v6, but unfortunately, when you Google Ethers, oftentimes you will run into older documentation from v5, etc., and there are some incompatibilities. So make sure you are on v6 when you check this. And so the window, we need to pass window.ethereum. So the browser provider, that's a JavaScript object that allows us to interact with the blockchain, but we need to give it the MetaMask object. So the MetaMask object, you cannot interact with the blockchain directly. You need this provider that is provided by the Ethers library, and it's going to give you a provider, and it's not finished. It's not finished because once you have this provider, you need to extract something that is called a signer, and with this signer, so with this provider, you can get some. With this provider, you cannot send transaction yet. For that, you need to do provider.getSigner, and when you do this, here there is an await keyword because we are going to wait. The user will see a pop-up where they have to accept the connection. Okay, so we need to wait, and then we're gonna get the signer, and finally we're gonna save the signer, and with this signer we will be able to connect to the blockchain. So actually we will not keep the signer in this component because it's a child component. We want to bring it back to the parent component. So for that, we are going to pass down a function setSigner. So I'm going to show you how to do this. Here we're going to get it basically as in the constructor of our component, and we pass it the signer, and so we bring him back to the parent component. And we also need to make sure that there is no error, because if it's possible at this stage that there is a problem with MetaMask, or that the user refused to grant us to give us access. So that's why we need to wrap everything in a try catch. And if the user doesn't want us to connect, or there's any error, let's display an error here. You need to accept the connection request of MetaMask to use this app. Okay. All right. So I think we are good for the connect component. So now let's come back to the page component, and let's define this signer state. So actually first let's get use state from React. Okay, and at the very bottom here, let's do signer, set signer. Okay, use state, and initially this is undefined. Okay, so how are we going to do this? So if there is a signer, well, for now, do nothing. But if there is no signer, let's render our connect component, and we pass it set signer. All right. So here we render the connect component, we pass it setSigner as a property, and when it's going to call setSigner, it's actually going to update the state here. So after, we're going to have access to the signer in the parent component. This is how it works. Oops, here made a typo. This is import. Okay, what else do we need? So we need to import the connect component, connect from components, connect.js. Okay, so here I'm missing something. I'm missing the curly brace. Okay, let's lower this a little bit. Okay, so let's see what we have in the front end now. Okay, so now we have the connect button. And so if we click on it, basically it's going to disappear, because so what happened is I've already accepted this connection before, so it doesn't show me the pop-up yet. and we get the signer in the parent contract and then the button in the parent component, and then the button disappear. This is the behavior that we're looking for. So the next thing is we want to be able to upload the ABI, and we want to be able to upload the address as well. So we're going to create another component that we're going to call upload contract .js. All right. And here use client, because that's a client component. Export default upload contract. Okay. And so we're going to return a couple of things here. So return, and here let's give it an empty HTML tag, because we always need something that wraps all the rest. So first we're gonna have a title that says here, let's make it bold. Okay, so it's nicer. Step 1, update contract details, so that the user understand what they need to do. Now we going to define a form, and in this form we need to upload the ABI. We need a text area to upload the ABI, and we need a text input to upload the address. So first of all, let's do the text area. So here, let's give it some breathing room at the bottom. Let's isolate this, and okay, let's give it a label so that people understand what is this. So HTML4, and we're gonna call this, yeah, just ABI. Class name, some Bootstrap class to make it nice. Okay, so yeah, this is called ABI. Okay, and after text area. Okay. Actually, we don't need to have this other closing component. Can be a self-closing component like this. Okay. So we're gonna have a lot of attributes. So let's put them each on their own line. So first, the name of this is ABI. Class name. It's form control, but that's Bootstrap. Text area. That's one of my own CSS. Let's give it some breathing room. And okay, so here this is important. We need to adjust the size of our text area, because otherwise by default it's going to be really small. So let's do this. And for a placeholder, so when it's still empty, we want to give it some basic instruction. Copy paste the ABI of the smart contract. Okay, it's so we are going to make it disabled once we have uploaded the contract. Okay, so okay, let's so contract uploaded. This is going to be in the state. Yes, so contract uploaded, set contract uploaded, and at the beginning this is false. And the last thing we need is an event listener. Whenever we make a change, we are going to update an internal state, right? So let's define this here. ABI string set ABI string. At the beginning, this is going to be an empty string. Okay, so now we have our text area. Yeah, let's see how it looks like so far. Okay, so let's import this. So import upload contract from upload contract. Okay, let's render it here. Upload contract. Okay. Connect. And what's the problem here? Update. Okay, so we haven't defined this function, so let's do this now. Update ABI string. Okay, so okay, we'll implement it after. Now I just want to see how it looks like. Okay, so step 1, update contract details. Okay, so that is working. Perfect. Then, so let's implement update ABI string. So I want to update this data target dot value, and I also want to trim it. So if there is some white space at the beginning or at the end, let's remove that. Okay, and so we need to yeah, so that is fine. What else we need? Okay, so now we're going to do the address. So let's do another div here. Okay, and we're going to have a label. So this time it's going to be for the address. Okay. And after, let's put the input. So this is going to be first name is the address. What else? So the type is going to be text. Class name, form control. Value, so it's going to read from the address state. Let's define this now. So set address and use state. Okay, what else we need for our input? So we need a placeholder. So at the beginning, when there is nothing, we want to show some help to the user. So 0x 3 dot. Okay, disabled. So once the ABI, once the contract was uploaded, then it should be disabled. Okay. And every time it changes, then what we're going to do is update the address with our state setter here. So new value target value. All right. So let's see if we see it. Yes. Right. Here we can type. Okay, so now we need the submit button. So the submit button, it's going to be, let me see, it's going to be in the form, but if the contract was uploaded, we're not going to show it. Okay, so only when a contract hasn't been uploaded yet. Okay, so now let's show it. Then I want it to be centered, so let's wrap it with a div to do that. And after this is gonna be a button of type submit. So here, let's give it some bootstrap class, some margin at the top, no margin at the bottom. Okay, and oh no, sorry, that is I'm getting mixed up. Here was button large. Okay, then we're gonna give it a disable attribute. So the disable, you know what? Let's make it on its own line because it starts to be a bit long. So when does it get disabled? So basically, it gets disabled when we don't have the ABI string or when we don't have the address. So we need the two things. We need the two fields to be filled. Otherwise, we cannot click on it. Okay. And after that, that's enough to, yeah, let's put the connect, the text of the button here, sorry, submit. All right. Okay, so let's see the front end now. Okay, so we see here submit. You see it's disabled. So if we type something here, it stays disabled. We type something here, now it's not disabled anymore. And if we remove either of them, it becomes disabled again. Okay, so that is the behavior that we are looking for. That's perfect. And next, we want to submit this this form. So when we click on submit, we are going to build the UI for this smart contract. So we're going to create a function called build UI. Okay, so let's do this, build UI, and so it's going to receive an event. So we need to prevent the form from being submitted automatically, otherwise the page is going to reload. This is not what we want. And after, what we're going to do is let's pass the ABI string. Okay, so because we want to make sure that we can pass it as a JSON. So then we're going to have an ABI as a JavaScript object, and that's going to be easier to manipulate it. And we also want to instantiate a contract object. So that's an ethers contract object to interact with our smart contract. Actually, we need to upload, import this from ethers. All right. Contract, new contract. And it needs a few things. First, it needs the address, so that we have here in the state. Second, it needs the ABI object. And it also needs the signer. So how it's going to get the signer? Well, if you remember, we got the signer with the connect component, and we managed to send it up to the parent component. So we can also, basically, it starts like this. It started in the connect component, the signer, then it went up to the parent component, and now we can send it down again to another child component. So basically, go up and then it go down. So we're going to pass it here, and here to upload contract, and we're going to pass the signer. Right. And then after, with our contract object, we can interact with the blockchain. And then with the ABI object, we are going to modify it. We only want to keep the functions. So I showed you before. Let me show you it again. What does it look like? So it looks like this, our ABI JSON, and we have functions. For example, this one here is a function, but we also have other things like event. So those are other construct in Solidity, and this is not a tutorial on Solidity today, so I'm not going to explain that, but we don't need that. We only need the function for our UI. Okay, so we want to filter in the ABI all just the function entries. So for that, we going to do use the filter function, and for each element, basically, we want the element type to be function. Okay, and now we need to update the state. So set ABI. So that's something we're gonna get here in the constructor. Okay, so set ABI. ABI object. Okay, we're gonna need it in order to build the UI. Okay. Oops, not set ABI string. Set ABI. Yeah, so set ABI string. This is for this component, but set ABI. This is for the parent component. What else? Set contract. So let's pass it the contract. No, not this, just set contract. We also need to have it in the constructor. Okay. Actually, let's define this in the parent component, because otherwise we're going to forget. So here ABI first, set ABI, use state. So undefined, okay. And we also need the contract. Okay, so your signer, then what else? ABI, contract. And you know what? Start to be a bit long. Like, I don't like it when it's too long like this. So let's put it on its own line. It's gonna be better. Let me see here. What's the issue? So, oh yeah. What is the issue here? Why it doesn't like it? Oh no. Let me see, where have I done my mistake here? Is there? Okay, so I'm missing. Okay. No. I know. Here I'm missing the curly braces. Okay, now everything is fixed. Okay, so let's go back to upload contract. And finally, let's update the state. Set contract uploaded, and this is just for this component so that we don't show the submit button anymore, and we also disable the text input and the text area. And it's possible that the ABI that we pass is malformed, so let's wrap everything with a try catch here. For example, if we put something else than a JSON object, we are going to have an error. So in this case, let's set an error. Not a valid JSON. We could also, so here we're just validating that it is a JSON, but we could and we should also validate that this is a valid ABI. So I didn't have the time to finish this, but I'm pretty sure with ethers there is a way to validate that there is a valid ABI. But I didn't have time, so we're just gonna skip it. And so let's display the error if we have an error. So first let's define the state. Okay, so at the beginning we don't have anything. And let's just copy paste what we have from here. So when you see that you're doing some copy paste like this, that is an indication that you need to refactor this and extract it in its own component. But I'm lazy, so just gonna do it the good old way by duplicating code. Okay, so let me see, where are we going to put our, where are you going to put, yeah, just here, our error. Okay. So what else do we need? Oh yeah, whenever we update the ABI, let's reset the error, because maybe that we have fixed the problem. Okay, so yeah, it seems like we have everything working fine. So let's click on connect. For the ABI, so here we can go to maker, copy ABI. Let me see this one. Copy paste it here. Then for the address, let's put the address of maker. So where is it? Here, all right, let's click on submit. Not a valid JSON. So let me see. What's your problem? Okay, let's try with another ABI, because I've already prepared an ERC20 in Remix. And so here we can click on the ABI button, because I've tried with this before and it was working. Okay, not a valid JSON, so it's defining a problem with our code. So let me see what's the problem here. Oh, mosquito. All right, so let's see what we have done wrong. So let's console log what we have here in the ABI string. Let's do some console logging. No, this is not here. Okay, so I'm trying to, okay, show me the console. So let's click on submit. Okay, so we do have the JSON here, so it's fine. What else? What else? So where? Okay, let's try to catch the error, because I'm not sure exactly why we have the error. So let's see this. Okay, so submit. Cannot access contract before initialization. Okay, so what have we done wrong? Okay, here this is uppercase. Okay, let's make it lowercase. Okay, so yeah, just some little issue. I think that's fine now. So let's go back, submit. Why you don't want connect, ABI, maker. Let's copy the address. What the hell is this? Okay, so what is the problem here? Let me console log, but that's weird. Right, so ABI object is not defined. Okay, so ABI object is not defined. So let ABI object, okay, that's here. Here, okay, small typo. ABI object, ABI object. Okay, so let's try again. Set ABI is not a function. Okay, so we need to go back to the parent component and define and pass set ABI. So set, no, not here. Here should be set ABI. All right, so let's try again. Set ABI, not a function. Okay, let's reload. Yeah, sometimes it's a bit annoying because we have to just copy paste every time the data. But it is what it is, you know? Okay, so what's your problem? Set ABI is not a function. So here we pass. Okay. I know. Here, the property and the value should be set ABI, not ABI, okay? So I was getting confused. What else? Set contract is not a function. Okay, so we need to pass this as well. Here, another typo. Okay, we're gonna manage to fix it. Don't worry. Okay, so now if I click on submit, it tells me not a valid JSON. Okay, so that's maybe, let me see. Why is, okay, let's reload. Maybe now when we're going to reload, it's going to work. I think so. So address, ABI, now you know the drill. Okay, finally it's working. So both of these input are disabled, okay, the ABI and the address. And so now we need to dynamically build the UI. Okay, we are making some progress. Okay, so let me do a quick pause and see what is in the chat. We have THX, Jimmy, Vibing, Jennifer, Holy Girl, Vlad, John, Mr. Double, Fulsan. Amazing. Okay, where you guys are from? Let me know in the chat. So I'm broadcasting live from Taiwan, Taipei. Okay, so now let's define the UI for the contracts so that we can interact with it. So in components, we are going, okay, let's remove here the console log. We're not gonna need it. In component, let's define a new file that is gonna be contract UI. All right. And let's do some copy paste here. All right, boom. Contract UI. Not sure yet what we're gonna give it. We'll see later. So in contract UI, we are going to return Let's wrap everything by empty HTML. And first, we are going to show an arrow down, okay? Because we want people to understand that something happened, they need to go down, okay? So we're gonna center it, some margin above and below. Let's adjust the font size, and I'm gonna show you something. HTML entities. So sometimes you don't even need to use any library for fonts, but you can just use the HTML entity that has some basically built-in icons in HTML. It's very simple to use. So I want to see the list of all of them. The list is much bigger than this. Okay, so let me see why I cannot see them. Complete list of HTML entity. Okay, so here I want to find a down arrow. Okay, so it could be something like this. Okay, yeah, so let's check this one, down arrow, and here let's display it like this. Okay, actually I found another one. Let me check my note. Yeah, find 11.0.15. Okay, so let's put that one. So we're gonna have our down arrow, and after let's put some explanation for the user, some space at the bottom. Let's make it bold. Okay, so step 2, interact with smart contract. Okay, so that's step 2. And now what we're going to do is dynamically we are going to build the UI. And how we're going to do this? We're going to do this by using the ABI. But the logic for each function is going to be a bit complex. So I prefer to extract this to its own component. So here we're going to receive the ABI from the constructor. And let's iterate through this ABI. So map. And each entry is going to be a function. Because remember before we filtered only the function in the ABI. This is only what we need. And what we're gonna do with this, so for now, let's do something simple, okay, just to make sure that it works. So let's return the function name, okay, fn name. And how do I know that we have this property? Well, that's because here when you inspect what is inside our JSON object, you can see here the name. Okay, so this is a function. For example, we can see the type, and one of the key here is name allowance, name approve, name balance of, etc. So we do have access to this. So let's just display that. And by the way, we need to render this component. So let's do import. I'm gonna call this, yes, it's contract UI from, so autocomplete. VS Code is getting smarter. Okay, so now how are we going to render this? Because basically the ABI is not populated at the beginning, okay? So we need to check that it actually exists. So if this is not empty and that this is an array, basically what we're gonna do is contract UI, and we're gonna pass it the ABI. Okay, like this. And if that is not the case, then we're not going to display anything. So this is a conditional rendering. And by the way, we need to wrap this by an empty HTML object, because React only wants one element as parent. You cannot have two elements. Okay, so seems like, yeah, we have all we need. So let's check this. Okay, awesome. So now we can see our arrow, we can see our different function, allowance, approve, etc. So those are all the functions of ERC20. So yeah, this is working, but this is not enough. Now we don't have any UI. So in order to complete our UI, we're going to create a new component that we're going to call function UI.js. Okay, so let's do some copy pasting here. All right, let's call this function. All right, let's take a quick pause here. Let me see what we have in the chat. So we have some people from Germany, from India. Money Machine, hey bro, I want to be a developer, but I don't know where to start from. Okay, so if some of you are lost, you can check out my roadmap. If you want to have some general career advice, check out my roadmap, eattheblocks.com/roadmap. This is the free training. It's going to explain you everything what you need to do step by step. Okay, so let's go back to the code. And so in function UI, what we're gonna get, so let's return our HTML here, and let's create a div for each function with some spacing at the bottom. Here, this is my own CSS. Okay, so let's first, we want to get the function name. Okay, and that means that we also need to get the function name here. Okay, so let's import the function UI in contract UI. Okay, and here instead of this thing, what we're going to do is going to be function UI function equal function. Okay, let's remove all of that. Okay, so let me see, should work this. Yeah, it's working now. Okay, amazing. So back to function UI. So we have the name, that's a good beginning, but now we also need a form, okay, with the button. So our form is gonna have a couple of things. So we're gonna iterate through the inputs. So let's go back to the definition of our ABI. And for each function, basically, we're going to have a block like this, an object like this. And one of the keys is input. So this tells you this is an array with all the arguments that you have to provide to the function. So here, this is the function approve. The first argument is spender. The type is address. Second argument is value. And the type is uint, so basically an integer. So we have two arguments here. So that means that we need to have two input fields in this case. For this function, we only have one input, so we're gonna just have one input field. And sometimes we don't have any input at all. So we need to iterate through the inputs array. And for each of them, we're going to render an input. So let's do this. How are we going to call this? Input. Okay. And let me see. Why is not happy? Let me see. Why is not happy here? I don't know why it's not happy. Okay, let's put some stuff inside. First, maybe it's going to remove this warning. So first we need a key, okay? Because this is React that require every time you render a list, it needs to have, each element needs to have a key. So we need to find something unique about this entry, and that's basically the name. Because in Solidity, you cannot have two arguments of the same name. So we are sure that they're going to be unique. Okay, here we need some space also at the bottom. And let's get some, let's create a label. HTML4, and now we don't know yet what will be the name of this input, but we can populate this dynamically. So input.name. Okay, then let's give it some bootstrap class. And after this is the name is going to be input.name. Okay. And after we want an input. So for the name, once again, this is input.name, easy. Then the type, so it's going to be text, because no matter if the argument is an address or a uint, basically everything is going to fit in a text. Exception, if we have an array or if we have a struct, this is not going to work, but you know, I didn't have the time to implement everything. And basically, the way you could do this is in your map here, you could have an if, okay? So if input type equal array, then here your code is going to be different. So you can make it more sophisticated. Class name, so form, this is a bootstrap, then value, so here we need to create a state with the different inputs. So that's going to be an object that we're going to create. So we're going to call this input value, and the key of this object will be the name of each input. So in this case, since we have two arguments, we're going to have two keys in this object. So let's see how we can define this. So input value setup input value, and okay, and so at the beginning I don't want it to be indefined. I want it already to have the proper shape because it's going to simplify our function. So initial input value, let's give it an initial shape, initial input value, and let's, from the inputs array, we're going to reduce it to an object. So whenever you want to go from an array to a single value, then usually you have to use reduce. So reduce, basically you have two arguments, an accumulator, that's a value that is going to be fed back to each function, but in an iterative fashion. And then input, so input, basically we're iterating through this input. And now let's create an object. Okay, so first of all, we're gonna you're gonna use the spread operator. So we're going to create an object. The first part of this object is the accumulator. So we start with an empty object basically. Then the second part will be the new key that we put. So input name, and then this is going to be equal to the empty string. Okay, so let me see. And here we need to give an initial value to the accumulator, so that's going to be the empty object. Okay, so I know that it looks a little bit complicated, but I'm going to explain. So we start with the empty object, okay? The empty object is going to be the accumulator here. So empty object input, that's the first argument basically. So here we create. This means when you return, when you have an arrow function with parentheses, it means that you are going to return what is inside the parentheses. So we're going to return this. And what is this? This is an object where first we put the accumulator, so that's empty. And now we create another object with a single key, okay, that's the name of the input, and the empty string. So at this stage, we don't have any value yet, okay? Now, for the second iteration, the accumulator is not going to be empty anymore. It's going to be an object with one key, okay? So this is what you're going to have here. But now it's going to be the input, it's going to be the second one. So first object plus the second key. Now the accumulator is going to have two keys. And then the cycle is going to continue until we have an object that basically looks like this. So let me see here. What is the, let me see an input function with two inputs. So spender here, spender and value. So here that means we're going to have spender and value, okay? So if we were doing this function called, what's this, the approve, if we were doing the approve function, basically initial input val will have this shape, spender and value, okay? So now this is our initial value for use state. Okay. And here now let's go back to the input field here. Okay, now we want a placeholder. So at the very beginning, placeholder is going to be the type of the input so that people understand what is the nature of the information they need to put. And finally, every time it changes, we need to track this. So the new value, we're going to put this update input. Let me see. Update input value. So we cannot use directly. We cannot directly use set input vals because the state is a bit complex, and we just want to update a part of it. So this we want to do an update deeply nested inside. So we need to define our function for that. Okay, so we need to know what is the name of the input. So that's going to be the key basically, and what is the new value of this key. By the way, let's why here we have something in red. Maybe because we need to close our input. Let me see. Yes, it's working now. So let's define a function to update the state. Update val input name new value. Okay. Okay, let me check quickly the chat. So who do we have here? Full Sun, do you use any AI tools? Which one for what job? I just use ChatGPT, that's it. But yeah, I'm not super happy with it. Like, I just found it moderately useful. It's like a very junior developer that bullshits you all the time. It never tells you how confident it is with his answer, and so no matter if it's right or wrong, he will always tell you, oh yes, that's the answer, and very often that is completely wrong. So I think they need to make some progress to be useful. Oftentimes, even for my tutorial, like I ask it some question, and actually I ask it to do the code for a tutorial, and I realize that by the time I finish to explain the problem to ChatGPT, in general, the answer it gives me is outdated because it's already lagging of like 6 months or 1 year behind in terms of all the framework, etc. So the code it gives me, it's outdated, and over time it doesn't work. And I realized that I've already done the hardest work, which is to write the specification. Once I've wrote the specification to ChatGPT, now I can implement the code myself without ChatGPT actually. Okay, so back to the code. So here we are going to update our state. We set up input valves. And so how are we going to do a deeply nested update? So we're going to use the spread operator. We're going to return a new object. So first of all, let's have the old object, okay? And now let's define a new object with only the key that we are interested in. So input name, okay? So this is how you define a dynamic key in JavaScript between square bracket. And for the new value, it's going to be new value dot target dot value, okay? And that's basically it. That is new object, and then we overwrite the key with the new value. Okay, then what do we need to do? Let me see. We need to have a button. We need to have a button when we click on it. So let me see where we're gonna put this button. Just here. So button type submit. Okay, class name button primary. Then it needs to be disabled at some point. So basically we need to have a field that require inputs. So we're going to create a function for that. Is disabled. Then let's call it submit. Okay. So let's define is disabled. So the two conditions are we want the two input to be filled. So if any of the inputs are not filled, are empty, then we know that this is disabled. So function dot inputs, and then we're going to use the sum function. So sum function is going to iterate through a JavaScript array. For every iteration, it's going to do a test, and the first test that fails, it's going to return true. So the test we want to have here is for this input, is it empty basically? Okay, and so by default they have the empty string. Okay, so now we have the disabled function. So I think already we should see something on the front end. Let's see. Oops, it's not here. The address is here. The ABI is here, right? Submit. Okay, so already we have some use state is not defined. Okay, noob mistake. Let me see. Let's copy paste this. Noob mistake. Okay, I have to do it again. No problem. Okay, let's copy the ABI. All right, so now you see that we've made a big progress. So we see the UI for each function. And here submit is disabled. So here for the owner, let me see, fill something, and now submit is not disabled anymore. If we remove it, it's disabled. If you remove the other, it's also disabled. Okay. And we have some function with no argument, like decimal, name, etc. So those ones, they are not disabled because we don't require anything. All right, so it's a pretty big progress here. We can see all our UI, but this is not finished because now when we click on submit, nothing is going to happen. So we need to connect it to the blockchain. And for that, what we're going to do is let's go to the form here and on submit, on submit, and inside, so we're gonna have, let me see, on submit, execute function, okay, and execute function. So this is going to be async, okay, because we're gonna hit the blockchain here. All right, so first of all, let's prevent the reloading of the page with this. Then let's show a loading a loading message because it's going to take some time. Okay, so we don't want the user to think that everything is broken. So for that, let's define state here. Okay, so originally this is false. Okay, nothing is loading. And what we're going to do below is show a message. So let's go and connect because we've already done. Well, I thought somewhere we had some info. No, we just have error here. Okay, well, we can just copy this and that's fine. So let's go in function UI, and where are we going to have our info message after the form here? Okay, so here we're gonna, if the loading state is true, then it's not going to be alert danger, but alert info. And here we want another icon. Let me see, Bootstrap. So do they have anything with loading? Waiting. It's weird. Really. Load. Nothing for waiting. That's weird. Wait. Okay. Okay, so yeah, this one. Okay, hourglass. Okay, so let's do this. And here we're just gonna say loading. All right, let's go back to our execute function. So next, so there is two possibilities here. Either this is a read-only function or this is a regular function, a transaction function. So the most simple case is when this is read-only. so function dot state mutability if this is equal to view. And how do I know this? Well, once again, I just had a look at the ABI. So let me see the different function. So this one, for example, this function balance of, it returns the balance of a specific address. So this is a read-only function, type view. Name, this is another one, type view. But how about the non-view one? Let me see. Let's go up. Allowance, this is this. Oh, approve. This is not here. Approve, this is not a view one. So state mutability, you see here, is not view. Okay, so we can filter the view function with the state mutability equal view. Okay, so then what we're gonna do here is let's use the contract pointer. So this is an object that we've instantiated in the upload contract component, and this allows us to interact with our smart contract. We actually need to get it from our parent object. So let's define it here, and in upload, let me see, our parent is contract UI. So it gets the ABI, but it should get the contract as well, right? So contract, and here let's forward this to the child here, contract. Okay, and let's now go back to the top component, this one. So contract UI, we also need to pass it contract. Okay, so yeah, so upload contract here, basically set the contract, make it go up to the contract state, then we make it go down again, all the way down to function UI, and so now we can use it here. Okay, so with this object, we need to call the correct function. So how can we call a function dynamically? Well, we can do this with the square bracket notation. So if you already know the name of the function, it's going to be something like this. But in this case, we don't know yet. So we use the square bracket notation. And the name is function.name. We have it here as in the constructor, fn. And after that, we need to give it the argument. So the argument will be between parentheses. So don't forget, normally it would be something like this. Transfer, and then argument 1, argument 2, etc. But we can also do it in a dynamic way like this. And so here for the argument, we're also going to use another trick. What we're going to do is we are going to extract the values of our object here, input vals, and we can do this with object value, and with the spread operator, we are going to basically it's going to transform an array into different argument, a series of argument. Okay, so here I think we need to let's give a specific example, because otherwise it's a bit difficult to understand. So let's say that you have this object here, so input vals. Okay, so if input vals is something like, let's say we want to call the transfer function, so we're going to have the 2 argument first. It's going to be 0x whatever. And then we're going to have the amount, right? So amount, some amount. All right, so now after, when you do object.values of input vals, the transformation is going to be, now you're going to have an array with all the different values. So I'm going to have this, And now we're gonna have this amount. Okay, so first transformation, and now when you do you call a function with let's say with this. So basically it's equivalent to doing this function and then this one. Okay, so you see there are two steps. We start with an object, then we transform this into an array, and finally the spread operator. So yeah, I mean, it's not easy, but it works. It works, okay. And so, okay, so let me see the chat a little bit. Luis, what? Hey, I'm building a SaaS for managing and interacting with smart contract. Cool, man. Would you be interested if I send it to you? Yeah, you can send it to me. I can tell you if I have any feedback. There's also the type here that is read-only function. Yeah, so, but that is in Solidity. So at the ABI level, I don't think that they make any difference, because from the point of view of JavaScript, it doesn't matter that it's Vue or pure. Just all that matters that it's read-only. Okay. Luis, with ethers, prefer to use the method get method instead of using the square bracket, because some function name cannot work with your solution. Interesting. I didn't run into this issue, but what you say is possible. Okay, so now we need to store this. We need to store this response. So how are we going to do this? Let's define a response object, and after that, let's say we have a state called set response. And also let's do toString, because for example, if we have a number, we're actually not going to have a JavaScript number, but we're going to have a JavaScript big int. That's a built-in type in JavaScript that allow you to manipulate really big numbers. And so if we need to transform this into a string that we can display easily. So toString here is going to work. It's not, for some type it might not work, but you know, for this tutorial we don't have time to make it work with absolutely all type. So let's define this state response set response, and yeah, initially this is undefined. Okay. What else do we need? So now we need to return, okay, we stop the function here. And now we are going to deal with a transaction function. So let's do, oh, here we're missing a wait, okay, very important. So now let's do, actually here we can copy paste this because that's the same thing for transaction function. This time we don't get, what we get in response is a transaction object, and finally we want a transaction receipt. So at this point it hasn't been mined yet, it was just sent to the blockchain, and we need to wait until this transaction is mined, and we do this with the wait function. And now what we're going to do is we're going to set a transaction confirmation to show to the user. And here we're going to say your transaction was mined. And let's put a, let's show the transaction hash so that the user can go to a blockchain explorer and see for themselves that it was actually mined. So let's define this state. Okay, let me see, transaction confirmation. And initially this is undefined, right? After, we need to make use of response and transaction confirmation. So let's go at the bottom here. All right, and so now if we have a response, let's display it here. So that's gonna be alert info. Yeah, this is okay. Then here, what are we gonna use for this? So let's go to Bootstrap icon and search something with info. Let me see. Info circle fill. Okay, let's do that. This one is good. All right, and now let's display what we have in the response. Okay, what else do we have? We have the transaction confirmation, right? So this is also an info. So transaction confirmation. And here, transaction confirmation. All right. And is this everything we need to do? No, because this is possible that there is an error. This is possible that either in the view function or in the transaction function, something goes wrong. So what we need to do in this case is a try catch. Okay, so we wrap everything to capture any potential error. And here, let's set an error. Oops. There was an error. Try again later. Okay. Then let's define the state here. And you know what? Let's copy paste an error we already have. So let's go. It's faster. All right. And finally, so no matter what happened, if there is an error or no error, this is going to be executed. Set loading is going to be set to false. Also, when we change one of the input field, we want to reset our response. So set response undefined. And if there's a transaction confirmation, we also want to reset it. All right, guys. So with this, I think that we are good. So you know what? We need to do the final test. Okay, so let's go back here. Okay, so let's reload. Let's start from the beginning. Let's connect. So we go to remix, copy paste the ABI of ERC20, then copy paste the code, the ID address of DAI here. Okay, click on submit. All right. Then, so we're not gonna try a transaction because I don't want to spend real money, but balance off, for example. Let's check the balance of some people. And okay, so I need to find someone who is rich. I need to find someone with a lot of DAI. And so there is something called a rich list that you can see on this website, die rich list. So let me check the richest guy here, this address, okay? So let's go to balance off here, this guy, click on submit, loading, and boom, wow, beautiful. So we see the loading screen, and then we can see the balance of DAI, amazing. Then let's see decimals. So decimals, okay, 18. So that's correct. That's we can actually verify here. Read contract, decimal, it's 18. Name is a DAI stable coin. What else? Symbol, DAI. Okay, so total supply. Okay, so now let's go back to our app. Name, DAI stablecoin, symbol, DAI, total supply. Yeah, it's working. Oh yeah, and by the way, let's verify that if we change anything, it's going to reset. So here, let's change something, and yeah, it reset. Perfect. So it is working perfectly, guys. I'm so happy because everything went without a glitch. So it's pretty awesome, and this is a non-trivial project. Like, you're not going to find this in every portfolio. And also, you have some opportunities to make it even better. So how would I make it better? When one possibility here, instead of having to update the ABI, is that you could just put the address of an existing contract, and then by using the API of Etherscan, so basically this website here, Etherscan, they also have an API for developer, and I believe that one of their API gives you the ABI of an address. Actually, we can check this API documentation. Okay, so contracts returns the contract ABI of a verified smart contract. Exactly what I was saying. So here you call this /API module contract. You just pass the address, your API key, so they have a free plan, and now you get the ABI back, and you can do the rest. So it's even easier to use for a user. Okay, they don't need to deal with the ABI. They just put the address, and that's it. So that's one way to improve it. Another way to improve it would be to make it compatible with more complex types. So, for example, what about addresses? What about arrays? So can it work with array? What about structs? So yeah, basically make it more robust. But so far, so good. It went very smoothly. So I see that we still have many people following here. Amazing. So before we finish this, just quick reminder here. So we've just started our next cohort for the Solidity Bootcamp. So in 1 month, we can turn you into a Solidity Pro, ready to get your first gig. And so you have missed 2 lessons. We've started on Monday, but if you sign up today, you can still catch up. We just have 1 seat left. eattheblocks.com/bootcamp. Okay, and the last thing I wanted to tell you is that all those live streams that I'm doing every week, so we are going to open a private community where for people interested in those projects who want to keep building on them. And in this private community, I will share the source code. Okay, so I'm going to give you more information about this in the next few weeks. All right, guys, is there any last questions or we're going to stop here? No last question for today. All right, so I hope that you learned something new today. Thanks, everybody, and I will see you next week. Bye.